Entrepreneurs versus intrapreneurs. So this is an idea that I think I picked up from Rob Moore, who is a fantastic property guru kind of entrepreneur. He's written some amazing books and he's got a fantastic podcast called The Disruptive Entrepreneur. I was very lucky to meet him actually in a, where was it? I think it was in brunch in Dubai. And then I had a phone call with him once, like a business coaching phone call with him once. Anyway, cool guy. I've learned a lot from him. I've read many, many of his books. And I first heard the terminology intrapreneur from him. And so an intrapreneur is somebody who is behaving and acting entrepreneurially, but within an organization. So let's look at the defining characteristics of an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur is somebody who is basically, I would say, a creator of wealth. They are able to turn ideas or systems or something into a new form of value and are able to scale it and share it. And there's a particular kind of way of thinking and a mode of being that comes with that. And, you know, I mean, I think for personally, I think being entrepreneurial, there's a sort of an adventure, like a kind of adventurousness about it, right? You're often skilled in making connections with people, building audiences, building networks, being able to communicate en masse, being able to communicate powerfully, leadership, understanding how things grow economically, how to scale things, scale systems, leverage other people's resources, talents, skills, time, and money. All of that is kind of within the world of the entrepreneur. And there's a sort of a drive for freedom in that sort of mode of being. And, you know, nowadays everybody is an entrepreneur or entrepreneur or, you know, it's much more of a sort of fashionable thing to be doing than maybe it was 20 years ago, for sure. And certain nations like the US are unashamedly entrepreneurial. Britain is a very entrepreneurial country, but we're much more reserved about it. We don't like to shout and scream about it, and they're not so sort of in your face with selling, etc. So the intrapreneur is somebody who is behaving entrepreneurially, but within the context of a business. So what this might look like is somebody finding new ways of revenue or income or roles or positions that they can take on inside of a company. So I've heard of people like in sales teams, for example, taking on a project of their own. They invent a project of their own and they go to their sort of staff, their team leader, and say, look, I'm going to do this. I want to be able to make some sales in this particular market, and can I get 10% of blah, 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 blah? Great, fantastic. Yeah, go for it. I've heard of staff members in small architectural practices, for example, who will be given a 10% commission if they bring a project into the office, and then they can lead and run that project. And the benefit there for the intrapreneur is they do it within the context and safety and stability of a business already, which, my God, we all know what it's like. Like just being able to have that freedom, but within the stable context of, you know, of being paid every month. That can release a lot of potential and can be a lot of fulfillment, a lot of, you know, a lot of interest. And yeah, there are other ways, there are other things. My sister was telling me recently about her husband, and she was saying how he works at a large credit card company, and she was saying how over the and they live out in Singapore, and she was saying how over the last year or so, he's been making phone calls. This is a company of 20,000 employees or something crazy like that, right? Actually, I don't know if it's as many as that. Anyway, let's imagine it is. And he's been going to the heads of other departments and having cups of coffee and just networking within the organization. And it's brilliant. It's brilliant because that's entrepreneurial. It's like you're going and you're creating your own little network. You're going out and you're meeting people within your organization in order to further your career. You'll be able to make those relationships, make those connections, and create new opportunities rather than being stuck behind the desk and getting grumpy and disgruntled because you're not doing anything outside of the box or trying to create your own career path. And I really like that idea of, you know, creating your own, particularly if you're working in your own organization. There's so obviously you could take on entrepreneurial modes and marketing within an organization of yourself. Like you could do a podcast at a large company. You could do an internal, you could get involved with your internal comms, start creating a network and creating value, or taking on your own sort of form of external marketing and bringing in new clients and just being involved in the business development side of your job can just bring so much fun. So much fun. And, you know, you can behave like an entrepreneur. You can develop your own projects. You can take ownership of them. You can get them bringing in a secondary part of income because, you know, and sometimes those entrepreneurial projects, I've heard of people who have been very much like that within businesses, and that can often be the beginning of a new business. So you move out from being an employee to becoming a consultant, and then you can scale up that operation of performance that you're doing internally and actually start taking it to the wider market and going into other businesses. There's a guy in here who was describing a similar sort of scenario for marketing services that he did. He was working in-house, became very good at it, decided to go and set up his own business. First client, bang, his older employers, becomes a consultant to there, and now is replicating the system to other businesses. So that is the idea of the intrapreneur versus entrepreneur. And I'm going to be speaking with some people who I know who are brilliant entrepreneurs who've actually gone back into employment and now behaving like entrepreneurs. So enjoy.